Among the rugged peaks and steep slopes that shaped the landscape of ancient Greece for centuries, lay a place whose beauty sharply contrasted with the harsh topography. At the remote tip of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, surrounded by majestic mountain ranges, stretched for miles a wondrous valley, bathed in greenery and sunlight. This fertile land, which its first inhabitants named Laconia, was destined to become the cradle of one of the ancient world's most resilient and warlike peoples. It was here, in this unique corner, that the legend of a powerful city-state was born, whose name still inspires awe and admiration, the story of Great Sparta. Sparta's origins trace back to deep antiquity, to an era when the Mycenaean civilization held undisputed sway over mainland Greece. These Mycenaeans, known for their unparalleled martial prowess and strategic thinking, erected monumental fortresses that served not only as impregnable bastions but also as lavish royal residences, symbolizing their power. Among these fortified centers, whose cyclopean walls still astound, stood out the legendary Mycenae, located at the very heart of Greece, the true epicenter of power at that time. Back then, the future Sparta, like other significant settlements such as Athens and Thebes, was merely one of many Mycenaean fortresses, modestly situated on the vast peninsula. Who could have then imagined that something so grand would emerge from this relatively unassuming outpost? However, the golden age of Mycenaean dominance was destined to decline, and the fate of the entire region drastically changed around 1100 BC. At this pivotal moment, Mycenaean Greece was shaken by waves of invasions from countless external peoples, whose arrival heralded a new era. Among these newcomers, the Dorians proved most significant and influential, a powerful people who gradually settled vast areas of mainland Peloponnese, including fertile Laconia. Their arrival marked the beginning of fundamental changes. And so, 2 centuries later, by approximately 900 BC, these Dorians were firmly established on Laconian soil, laying the foundations for a new state entity. It was from their hands, their culture, and their traditions, that the unique community was born which would forever enter history under the name Sparta. But what exactly made this new Sparta so different from its predecessors and neighbors? And how did an ordinary fortress transform into a formidable embodiment of military might? The answers to these questions lie in its astonishing history, which is just beginning. A significant event unfolded in the 650s BC, when Sparta successfully suppressed the Messenian revolt. However, instead of merely subjugating these people, the Spartans enslaved the entire population of Messenia, forcing them into arduous labor on Spartan agricultural lands. Around the same period, Sparta embarked on an unprecedented development of its military power, reaching a level where, by 550 BC, it had established undeniable hegemony over the entire Peloponnese. Systematically training its young citizens from the earliest age in the art of war, Sparta soon deservedly gained a reputation as a formidable and powerful military state. Spartan society went to extreme lengths in its pursuit of military perfection, even evident in the assessment of newborn infants. If a child was found to have any physical defects, they were ruthlessly left to die on a mountaintop. This radical separation of the weak from the strong undoubtedly contributed to the Spartan army becoming one of the most elite and capable forces in all of Greece. Nevertheless, this harsh practice also led to a significant limitation of Sparta's population, reducing it to only a few thousand people, which would have extremely serious and far-reaching consequences in the near future. In 550 BC, Sparta initiated the formation of the Peloponnesian League, a powerful alliance that included Sparta, Corinth, and several other independent city-states. At the same time, Sparta found itself in a prolonged war with the city of Argos. However, despite numerous sieges and attempts to storm it, the Spartans never managed to capture the city, as Argos demonstrated outstanding resilience and successfully defended against all attacks. Ancient Hellas, seemingly in relative equilibrium, was soon to become the arena of profound historical transformations, as the momentous Greco-Persian Wars began in 480 BC. This large-scale conflict was provoked by the revolt of the Ionians of Anatolia against their Persian overlords, and the Greek city of Athens soon became involved in this struggle, lending support to the rebels. Athens, demonstrating its newfound military might, quickly emerged as a rising power, inflicting a crushing defeat on the Persians in the legendary Battle of Marathon. However, this bold defiance only intensified the wrath of the Persian kings, who ultimately, in that same year 480 BC, launched a full-scale invasion of mainland Greece. Recognizing the impending threat, Sparta and Athens, despite their differences, formed a strategic alliance, and Spartan troops advanced to the Thermopylae Pass, aiming to delay the Persian advance. A small but legendary expeditionary force of just 300 Spartans heroically held back the Persian army's onslaught for 3 days before being completely overwhelmed in an unequal battle. Although Sparta and Athens ultimately achieved a triumphant victory over the Persians, this process led to them becoming irreconcilable rivals on mainland Greece. Athens, through its contributions and naval power, established itself as the protector of all Greek people. Soon, the defensive pact Athens had formed with numerous city-states gradually began to transform into something increasingly resembling an imperial entity, as Athens started asserting its dominance over these polis, relying on its formidable fleet. With the common enemy gone, Sparta and Athens inevitably entered into a confrontation that went down in history as the Peloponnesian War. This protracted conflict lasted for an exceptionally long time. A key problem was that Sparta, being the undisputed dominant land power, could not overcome the mighty walls of Athens. Furthermore, it was impossible for the Spartans to successfully besiege Athens, as the city possessed a strategically vital port that ensured uninterrupted supplies from overseas. Ultimately, the Spartan commander Lysander managed to achieve a decisive victory over the Athenian fleet and completely blockade their port. This circumstance inevitably led to Athens' capitulation in 404 BC. Thanks to this triumphant victory, Sparta established its hegemony over all of Greece. However, this dominance soon began to be actively challenged by other city-states. The Spartan population never fully recovered from the 2 major wars they had just fought, and as a result of this weakening, Thebes managed to assert its hegemony over Sparta in the 370s BC. Sparta's days of former glory were now long past. Nevertheless, Sparta showed remarkable resilience, managing to resist the invasion of the Macedonians led by Philip II and Alexander the Great, thereby preserving its independence for the foreseeable future. Despite this, Sparta was no longer at its peak strength and consequently, did not achieve significant deeds over the following centuries. They successfully repelled an attack by Pyrrhus of Epirus, but soon came under the rule of the powerful Romans. This state of affairs continued until 396 CE, when Sparta was finally captured by the Visigoths, marking its historical end. One of the most remarkable aspects of Spartan civilization is the skillful weaving of a web of propaganda that enveloped their city-state. A prime example is Thermopylae, a pass now firmly embedded in the Western consciousness as a symbol of a desperate and heroic last stand against Eastern invaders, aimed at safeguarding the sacred ideals of Western freedom. Nevertheless, behind this heroic facade lay a different, far less noble reality. Sparta ruthlessly enslaved entire peoples, brutally killed infants deemed unfit for service in their ranks, and notably, never fully recovered from the 2 great and fateful wars it waged throughout its history. And yet, despite these dark pages of its annals, Sparta has been immortalized in the annals of history as a powerful state that gave the world some of the most outstanding and fearless warriors ever to exist.